There are some people who say that the divide between Republicans and Democrats is the divide between the college educated and the non-college educated. And I understand why they say that, because you can easily see how there is a great divide in the voting patterns of people with a college degree and people without one. But I taught high school for 30 years, and I taught middle school for a little while. And I noticed something with my students, not all my students, some of my students. Some of my students wanted me to give them the answer. That was all they wanted. They didn't want to think, they didn't want to look for the answer. And some of them, even when they would look for the answer, they wouldn't trust that they found the right answer. They would want me to verify their answer, tell them they were correct before they would write it down, because they had no confidence in their answer. That reminds me of some of the people who voted for Trump. Another thing that I noticed with my students, some of them, is that they really wanted these very simple, cut and dry answers. We might watch a clip and a person made a statement, and I would stop the clip and say, okay, this is their argument. Is their argument true? Is it false? Is it partially true? And again, some of these students would, without thinking, without deliberating, without taking a moment to process the argument and really think about, do I understand all the parts of it? Have I considered nuances, shades of meaning, different scenarios? They would just knee-jerk reaction to whatever they heard, just blurt it out before I even almost finished the question. And to give you an example of what I'm talking about, let's say, not that I ever did this, but I'm going to give you a super simple example. Let's say that on this clip, the person said, fire is bad. And I would have students who would just knee jerk, yeah, fire's bad. They hadn't thought about it at all. And let's say that a further statement this person made is, fire is bad, so we need to regulate it. People need to have permission from an agency to use fire. And again, this student knee-jerk reaction, fire is bad. Yeah, they do need to have permission. But they haven't thought about anything at all. They haven't thought about, is fire good? Does fire have uses that we use it for on a daily basis that we might not be able to use it for if we have to get permission? Could that cause unforeseen problems? One of the things I taught my students was I think it was called Plato's Circle of Influence. I haven't taught it in a while, but I think it was called Plato's Circle of Influence, where I would have them put their fingers together, kind of like putting both their hands together so they have this small, tiny circle. That's me. That's you. Okay, that's us in the center. And then we move our hands out. There's our immediate family. We move our hands out a little bit more. There's our neighborhood, our school, our community, our immediate community. Move our hands out a little bit more. City, a little bit more state, a little bit more nation, a little bit more continent, a little bit more the world. And if you start thinking about this statement that I started with, fire is bad. We use fire for so many things. We use fire to light candles. Are candles bad? We use it for campfires. Are campfires bad? Some people have to light a match to light their stove, the pilot light on their stove, to cook. Is cooking with fire bad? There have been times when people lost power and they had a fireplace. And in these cold snaps that have happened in different parts of the world, different parts of America, that fire was a way that they kept their family warm and they didn't suffer from hypothermia or any kind of just plain discomfort because they didn't have the electricity to heat their homes. And I could go on and on and on with fire. Now, of course, we know that there are wildfires and we know that there's arson and we know there are all different other things that fire is used for. But fire also can create s'mores. So when you have someone who has a knee-jerk reaction and they tell you this not thought out claim and you just go with it and you're not even thinking about it, that is the behavior of a lazy, undisciplined child who has not realized that they have to begin to use their brain. They have to begin to think. They are no longer a little bitty kid whose parents are going to make every decision for them. They have to grow up. They have to consider options. They have to look at all sides of an issue. And I think that there's some people who want to default into this childlike stance and say, I don't want to think. I don't want to research. I don't want to consider all sides of an issue. I don't want to consider perspectives on an issue. I don't want to think about nuance. I just want somebody to give me the answer and make the decisions for me because I don't want to be responsible for what happens. I don't want to be responsible for the research. I don't want to be responsible for the choice. I want to let somebody else who may be, quote, smarter than me, I want them to make the decision. But that shows also a lack of confidence in yourself. And so maybe even low self-esteem. And so we have to get a populace that is desirous of thinking, of considering options, of weighing pros and cons. And that has nothing to do with college. College can help you develop that. But I was trying to get my middle school students to develop that, my high school students to develop that. So that is just a part of maturing. And some people want to take shortcuts to maturing and they want to abdicate their responsibility to use their brain to somebody else. And I think that that's more the divide than it is a college degree. This abdication of mental responsibility, this abdication of mental discipline, of clarity of thought, of not having this knee-jerk reaction that won't stand even a few minutes of thoughtful inspection. We got to do better.